Hello, and welcome to Day by Day True Crime Stories, the podcast where we explore a different crime or justice milestone from this day in history. I'm your host, Kona Gallagher, and today is September 10th. On this day in 1921, beloved Hollywood comedian Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle walked into a San Francisco police station and turned himself in. He was arrested for murder, accused in the shocking death of 26-year-old actress Virginia Rappe. Just 5 days earlier, Arbuckle was at the height of his fame. He was earning $1 million a year and was one of Hollywood's biggest comedians. But at a Labor Day party, everything changed forever. Today, we're talking about one of Hollywood's first scandals, the arrest of Fatty Arbuckle. Let's get started. On Labor Day, September 5th, 1921, Arbuckle and two friends, Lowell Sherman and Fred Fishback, checked into San Francisco's luxurious St. Francis Hotel. Arbuckle had rented 3 adjoining rooms on the 12th floor, 1219, 1220, and 1221. One of them quickly became the party room. Despite prohibition, liquor flowed freely, and the atmosphere was festive. Among the guests that day was Virginia Rappe, a young actress who was hoping for her big break. But sometime during the revelry, she became violently ill. Witnesses later said that she was found writhing on the floor of room 1219, clutching her stomach and moaning. According to reports, she cried out, quote, "I'm dying. He hurt me," end quote. A hotel doctor was summoned, but instead of sending her to the hospital, he gave her morphine, assuming she was drunk, which I guess in 1921, morphine was a treatment for drinking too much. In any case, it wasn't until 2 days later that she was finally admitted to a clinic. But by then, it was too late. On September 9th, she died of peritonitis caused by a ruptured bladder. Speculation spread immediately. Some pointed to an obvious explanation, that Victoria had battled chronic medical issues for years and alcohol may have worsened them. But others believed something much darker had happened in that hotel room. Her companion, Maud Delmont, accused Fatty Arbuckle of assault. All of a sudden, Virginia Rappe was dead and Hollywood's biggest comedian was at the center of a storm. The morning after Virginia's death, Roscoe Arbuckle voluntarily surrendered to police. By the afternoon of September 10th, he was formally booked on suspicion of murder. The arrest was front-page news nationwide. In the blink of an eye, the lovable screen clown was painted as a dangerous predator. San Francisco's district attorney, Matthew Brady, who was known for his political ambitions, seized the moment. He spoke confidently to the press, presenting Arbuckle as guilty before a jury was ever chosen. Within 3 days, a grand jury indicted Arbuckle, not for murder, but for first-degree manslaughter. The charge suggested that the crime wasn't premeditated, but that Arbuckle acted with reckless disregard. Still, the effect was the same. America's most famous comedian was about to stand trial for a young woman's death. But Arbuckle wouldn't stand trial just once. The scandal spiraled into 3 sensational trials, and each one became a national obsession. The first trial began in November 1921. Arbuckle's defense, led by Gavin McNabb, tried to portray him as a man who was caught in a tragedy, not a crime. Witnesses claimed that they'd heard Virginia scream, and forensic experts described her injuries as forced. Arbuckle sat quietly, insisting that he had only tried to help her when she became ill. After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for 44 hours. They were deadlocked. 10 voted to acquit, and 2 voted to convict. The result was a mistrial. But the state didn't give up. The second trial began just 2 months later, in January 1922. This trial was even rockier. This time, Arbuckle didn't testify, and his lawyers waived a closing argument, choices that looked suspicious to jurors. However, the prosecution's witnesses faltered, and some were revealed to have criminal records or personal motives. Still, the jury split again, leaning toward acquittal but unable to reach a consensus. It was another mistrial. 2 months after that, in March 1922, the third trial began. By this point, patience was thin. Prosecutor Brady leaned heavily on Maud Delmond, but her credibility crumbled under scrutiny, especially after defense lawyers revealed her attempts at extortion. On April 12, 1922, the jury needed only 6 minutes to return a verdict: not guilty. Basically, the coroner's examination of Virginia Rappe revealed a tear or hole in the bladder wall, through which urine leaked into the abdominal cavity, causing severe infection. It was not caused by a sexual assault, but was likely spontaneous and could have been triggered by extreme distension or a long-standing bladder condition. It was, as Arbuckle had claimed all along, a tragedy, not manslaughter. But what came after the verdict was extraordinary. The jurors released a public statement. Quote, "Acquittal is not enough for Roscoe Arbuckle. We feel that a great injustice has been done him. He was manly throughout the case and told a straightforward story which we all believe. We wish him success and hope that the American people will accept the judgment that Roscoe Arbuckle is entirely innocent and free from all blame." End quote. It was the rarest of things, a jury apologizing to the defendant. Arbuckle was by law cleared, but the court of public opinion had already ruled. Even though Arbuckle was acquitted, his career was essentially over. Will H. Hayes, the man newly appointed to clean up Hollywood's image, banned Arbuckle from acting. Though the ban was technically lifted later, the damage was permanent. His films were pulled from theaters, and studios wouldn't hire him. Bankrupt from $700,000 in legal fees, which was a staggering sum in the 1920s, Arbuckle retreated into obscurity. He directed films under the pseudonym William Goodrich, but never regained his star power. The scandal changed Hollywood, too. The Arbuckle case, which was amplified by lurid tabloid coverage, convinced studio heads that they needed to police their stars' behavior. It laid the groundwork for decades of censorship and morals clauses in contracts, clauses that made actors' private lives studio business. As publisher William Randolph Hearst later bragged, the Arbuckle story, quote, "sold more papers than the sinking of the Lusitania," end quote. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle lived out his final years in the shadow of scandal. In 1933, hours after signing a long-awaited contract for a feature film comeback, he died of a heart attack at age 46. The Arbuckle case wasn't just one man's downfall. It was the blueprint for the modern celebrity scandal. It showed how fast public opinion could turn, how careers could end before verdicts were in, and how media could shape reputations more powerfully than the courts. On September 10, 1921, police led Roscoe Arbuckle away in handcuffs. The legal system eventually cleared him, but history never did. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Day by Day True Crime Stories. If you found this story compelling, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It'll help us grow. And be sure to join me again tomorrow as we explore another significant event in true crime history. Until then, stay safe, and remember that behind every headline is a life worth remembering. Day by Day True Crime Stories is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!